once again, the Nashville Predators came back from their 5-day break before the Tampa game and once again came out sloppy, uneven, and unable to get anything started early on in the game, and leading to a 3-2 loss which I will give them a little bit credit. They had some adversity to go through tonight. However, this was the Ottawa Senators. This is another team that Nashville should be able to beat, sitting a good amount of ways below them in the standings in the NHL. But Nashville has proven that they are just an inconsistent team that, unfortunately, we haven't seen any evidence so far this season. This is a team that can pull themselves out of a slump or pull themselves out of anything other than basically mediocrity. But let's take a look about what exactly I think happened and what were some of the keys to this game and why there may be some issues in the future. I would be remiss if I didn't start out with the power play. Once again, the Nashville Predators were unable to score on the power play, including a 6-on-5 empty net attempt at the end of the game, but also losing a 5-on-4 attempt after going down 3-2 when Philip Forsberg was called for a penalty, which again was extremely unfortunate that they were able to have very little time with the man advantage. And then, of course, the 4-on-4 is where the goal was scored by the Ottawa Senators. But we will come back to special teams because next I want to talk about maybe not just the special teams, but the offense in general. And this is a question that I'm finding myself asking this question more and more. I talk about a lot about the style of this team, the identity, as John Hines would put it, is that this team is a team that is focused on forechecking, creating turnovers, and using that heavy forecheck to really play a physical game, tire out the other team, and create opportunities. But here's a question I find myself asking myself. What is this offense set up to do? Now, we've seen a lot of changes since the Laviolette area. Obviously, we see a lot more of a player playing below the red line, trying to set up his teammates from the bumper position. But honestly, I don't know what the purpose of this offense is once it gets set up in the zone. And getting set up in the zone has also been a major problem for this team this season. I would think within any offense that, yes, you may have your things that you want to tailor it to, a style that you want to adhere to. But the other thing you want to do with an offense is to tailor your offense to get your star players into scoring position. Now, for example, take a look at Philip Forsberg. Philip Forsberg has been doing extremely well in every area except for scoring goals, much like the rest of the team. He's shooting well above average on his shot quality, which means he's due for it. It just hasn't happened yet. But one thing about Philip Forsberg is if you look at the power play, he's stuck sitting outside the left circle, usually waiting for a one-timer or hoping to set up somebody else up at the net. And again, I don't know that that's the best use of the talent that Philip Forsberg has. You see Matt Duchene on that very same power play sitting in the bumper position only, and then you have Roman Josi and Mikael Granlund or somebody else out there on the other perimeter slot, and they're just passing back and forth. So the power play, I honestly don't know what the offensive plan is for that. And they brag a lot about how, Ryan Johansson and players like that have a really good face-off percentage, but let's be real, even if they do win the face-off in the offensive zone on the power play, what exactly are they doing? Because I haven't seen very much of any kind of set play for this power play. In fact, it seems like a lot of their goals come from the usual take a one-timer from the blue line and hope that it tips its way in, which isn't a sustainable way to score goals. But let me go back to the point of the 5-on-5 offense. I don't see anything that is working to try and free up players like Philip Forsberg, Matt Duchene, Ryan Johansson, these types of guys. I see a lot of this that, we see a lot more of get pucks to the net, try to create deflections, create traffic, but they haven't been creating much traffic because there's not a lot of movement. So really it just brings up this one final question. The natural progression to all of this is, what are the special teams, what are the offense doing? Because obviously right now, especially on special teams, whatever it is they were doing that gave them some success last season, it's not happening now. The power play has been bad all season. The penalty kill was in the top 10 early on, just as recently as 2-3 weeks ago. Now they've slipped all the way down to 17th. And as we saw, they haven't been great on 3-on-3 overtime. And then 4-on-4, they obviously weren't coached up ready because we're seeing some too many men penalties once again. And that 4-on-4, all four players had come down to try to score, and with nobody left out, and there was an easy goal that proved to be the game-winning goal. So I am at a loss. I don't necessarily think that John Himes has lost this locker room, but it's obvious that he has not been able to coach these players up to the potential that we saw last season. Even though, again, on paper, this team should be better than what they were last season. Now, yes, a fair amount of blame does go on to the players. Nobody has really stood out to me. Even UC Saros is having a rather pedestrian up and down season. But I think that if I'm general manager David Poyle, I'm thinking about making some changes, maybe not all the way to the top, but maybe having a long, hard conversation with John Himes about who's running the power play, how they're going to approach that in the future, because I can't imagine that anybody is happy with this and happy with the fact that they have yet to improve on this or change what they're doing at all. In other news, though, if the loss wasn't bad enough, we also saw injuries to Alexander Carrier and Jeremy Lauzon, both defensemen. Both did not return to the game after the second intermission. And so Nashville, to their credit, played about, I'd say 35 minutes or 30 minutes of this game without those two defenders. So just four guys. And we saw that their time on ice was something ridiculous for those top four guys. And Nashville managed to kind of keep it, keep up with it, and they didn't fall behind too much. They managed to keep in the game, and it was close all the way to the end. So credit where credit is due. But this is now officially a problem for the Nashville Predators. Mark Borowiecki and Ryan McDonough have both been on the IR. I don't imagine that Mark Borowiecki will be out too much longer with after being hit in the face. Excuse me, but there's no timetable on McDonough's energy. Injury rather, and then we have no idea about Carrier and Lauzon. Coach Himes didn't say anything about them after the game, so we'll find out. But we did find out that two of Milwaukee's defenders were pulled from the active roster and are most likely heading to Nashville as we speak right now, and that is Roland McCown, who has 3 points in 10 NHL games with Carolina, and Kevin Gravel, 1 goal, 13 points, 109 games, with Los Angeles, Edmonton, and Toronto. So we saw a lot of these guys in development camp early on into the season, but here's their chance. Who knows if both Carrier and Lauzon will be unavailable to go on Monday against the St. Louis Blues, but Nashville now has had to pull some extra defenders, and now Milwaukee, they're thin, and they're going to have to sign one or two players to an ATO contract just to fill up their spots. So Nashville's a little bit in trouble when it comes to defensemen. One more injury could seriously derail anything that might be resembling success for the rest of this season, at least the rest of this month. And so things got bad and then they got worse today. And unfortunately, Nashville does not have any easier of a job coming up. They still have 4 more games in the next 7 days, and none of those opponents are slouches themselves. They have to go to St. Louis on Monday, then turn right around and have a back-to-back at home against Edmonton on Tuesday, then to Winnipeg, and then back to Colorado to play them again. And this is all in the next 7 days, so this is not looking great for the Nashville Predators. The goaltending has been, as I said, pedestrian. The offense has been non-existent, and the defense has been doing its best, but not good enough. So we're going to find out a lot about this team before Christmas, and for some of you, if this team everything falls off the wagon, then some of you might get some of those Christmas presents that you've been asking about very loudly on Twitter. And that's going to be my recap for the night. Back to you, Charlie.